Welcome to Emergency Management Associates with Ron Tyler. Ron has been a first responder and in the preparedness arena for years. Since the early 1980s, Ron Tyler has been working to make sure people are prepared for whatever comes their way. He assisted his parents doing survival dinners where they went to church. He has lived in earthquake country, where quite a few large earthquakes hit San Diego and the state of California. Ron Tyler started Emergency Management Associates as a way to prepare people for coming emergencies and disasters. He was a first responder and responded to areas to help serve, rescue, and train people. Ron has set up emergency command posts during fire seasons in the mountains of Southern California and in Colorado. Having been a volunteer fireman and then a police officer, Ron knows what needs to be done and has done it. Ron and his crews have saved many people's lives. Ron has spoken to hundreds of community groups, helped organize preparedness fairs where he has lived. Through his travels, Ron has met hundreds of people and is valued in those communities and continues to work and lecture people on the complex work of emergency/disaster preparedness and emergency management. Ron has spent 24 years in law enforcement and has an extensive background in law enforcement and tactics. Ron's career was spent in homicide, traffic accident investigation, weapons and tactics, and personal/executive protection and emergency management. Ron Tyler has been a missionary for his church and is now a gospel doctrine instructor. With these items safely tucked away, you and your family will have an advantage should an emergency or disaster strike. Water, enough for at least 3 days. Food, ready-to-eat canned food, granola bars, dried fruit, peanut butter. Flashlight, with extra batteries. All essential medications and prescriptions. Medical equipment for conditions, extra pair of eyeglasses, extra batteries for hearing aid, etc. First aid kit. Personal care supplies. Emergency contact information. Copies of important documents, photo ID, medical insurance cards, medication lists, insurance policies. Records of personal property and insurance policies. Masks. Change of clothing, jacket, gloves, hat. Blankets. Remember to subscribe, like, share with your family and friends, and thank you for watching. Mail, rltnspdema@gmail.com, and our address is 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina 28655.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our program this evening. Folks, we don't usually come on the air on Sundays or Sunday evenings except for a Sunday school class that we already held earlier today. However, I was contemplating going on the air immediately after our Sunday school class, but I wanted to make sure we had all the facts of what happened with those earthquakes in Cuba. Things are a lot more dangerous than they seem. Okay? I'm just going to say, I'm going to cover this from the very beginning. The first earthquake that hit was earlier this morning, about 11 a.m. Okay? About 10:50 a.m. to be exact. This was a 6.0 magnitude earthquake. A 6.0 magnitude earthquake. Folks, that constitutes a very strong earthquake. 6.0, 6.9 is considered to be a very strong earthquake. Not just large, but very strong. Okay? Next, it became even more dangerous. This was a 6.3 earthquake. This happened at 11:49 a.m. this morning. A 6.3. Okay? This was a second of the 6 earthquakes. Again, this is considered to be a very strong earthquake. The next earthquake happened at 11:49 a.m. This was the major earthquake, the main shock wave. The other two earthquakes were all building up to this. Since then, there have been four other aftershocks. This was a 6.8 earthquake. It says 6.7 here, but it came out as a 6.8. Now I'm going to tell you this. The 6.0 was actually a 6.3. The 6.3 was actually a 6.8. This 6.8 was actually a 7.2, 7.3 earthquake, and I can prove it. I've gone through all the scientific explanations. I've gone through all the documentations the USGS has put out. The first earthquake they have is a 6.0 I showed you was a 6.3 very strong earthquake. The second was a 6.3 that should have been a 6.7, 6.8. This last one, the 6.8 that they've documented as a 6.7. This earthquake was a 7.2, 7.3 major earthquake. Okay? Now I've said this again, I've said this before, and I'll say this again today. USGS does not know what the hell they're doing. They've downgraded these earthquakes to make it seem like nothing happens. Let me point out where this earthquake came from. Okay? All three of these earthquakes and the other four aftershocks are all on the Cayman Ridge Fault. Let me take this earthquake down and show you the USGS map. I will be able to give you a better idea about everything here in just a second. I want to show you the USGS map. Okay? Let me take down my mug. Let me take down our EMA banner here so I can show you what's going on. Every one of these earthquakes were just barely off the southern coast of Cuba. Actually, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Okay? The detention facility for Guantanamo Bay is right next to that large circle that you see here. I'll show you Guantanamo Bay detention facility in just a minute. Okay? But first, I want to back out on this map. I want to show you exactly what this earthquake is and how it came to be. Let's back out here. Notice the red line that runs over here through the Caribbean Sea. Okay? Let's take a little quick look where it came from. This red line comes from the west here in what? Guatemala. Guatemala, South America, or Central America. Guatemala, Central America. Then it proceeds east. Okay? It proceeds east from Guatemala and goes out into the Caribbean. Then it takes a northward turn and goes up to the Cayman Islands that you see here. Then it continues going eastbound. It goes just north of Jamaica that you can see here. Then it skirts the southern part of Cuba here. And in fact, goes right through southern Cuba right here. The Cayman Ridge continues eastbound. Goes east, north of Haiti here. North of the Dominican Republic. Continues east here. And over here, off the southeast coast of the Dominican Republic, we have a 4.2 earthquake here. 4.2 moderate earthquake right here. Okay? Then this earthquake fault, the Cayman Ridge Fault, or what they call the Cayman Ridge Trench. It continues eastbound here. Continues eastbound over and north of the U.S. British Virgin Islands here. It continues eastbound and then it heads south. It takes a deep dive just north and east of the Leeward Islands here. It continues southbound here, past the Leeward Islands here, all the way down here to South America. Then it takes a westward turn. The westward turn takes it through Venezuela, right over here. And just south of Grenada. That's the Cayman Ridge, guys. The Cayman Ridge takes seismic energy out of Central America. The Cayman Ridge takes seismic energy out of South America, or Central America. That's how this earthquake here in Cuba was made. Okay? Now, the USGS is only showing one major quake. They're showing us this quake. They're showing it as a 6.8. As I stated before, this was actually a 7.2, 7.3 major earthquake. A 7.2, 7.3 major earthquake. Let me show you these other earthquakes here. This is a 5.9. They downgraded the 6.0 to a 5.9. Okay? They're not even showing the 6.3 here. This is a 4.6 moderate earthquake here. This is a 4.2 moderate earthquake here. And this is a 4.0. They're not even showing the 6.3 that was actually the 6.7, 6.8. Again, the United States Geological Survey is lying to the people. They're absolutely falsifying data. Falsifying data. They've downgraded every quake here. That's what they do best. USGS downgrades everything. I'm preaching to the choir because I tell you guys this all the time. I talk about this all the time. This is a major deal, guys. Cuba is a very backward country. Cuba is a communist country. Right here, just north of these earthquakes, is Guantanamo Bay Detention Facility. Guantanamo Bay Detention Facility. Let's get out of the USGS map here. I want to show you in my next picture here. This is Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Guantanamo Bay, Cuba is out here in Guantanamo Bay. Okay? Right here in Guantanamo Bay. This is a huge Navy base here. The United States Navy has control of this, even though the rest of Cuba is a communist country. But Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp is right here, just north of where that 6.0, 6.3, and 6.8 earthquakes happened. Okay? I want to be very succinct what we're talking about here. That 6.8 magnitude earthquake shook eastern Cuba this morning, weeks after hurricanes and blackouts that left much of Cuba reeling. Much of Cuba is reeling. It's been blacked out because of the hurricanes. It's been blacked out for many reasons. Their electrical facility here, their electrical camp that provides power for the island is severely lacking. The epicenter of this quake was located approximately 25 miles south of Bartolomé, Mazo, Cuba. Bartolomé, Mazo, Cuba. The rumbling was felt across the eastern stretch of Cuba, including bigger cities like Santiago de Cuba. There's no immediate reports of damage or injuries. Residents in Santiago, Cuba's second largest city, were left shaken this morning. There have been no reports of significant damage or injuries as a result of these earthquakes, even though these earthquakes were very close to shore. And as I said, the Cayman Ridge goes right through southern Cuba. Right directly through southern Cuba. So southern Cuba, or most of Cuba, felt this earthquake, but not all. Cuba was not the only place that felt this earthquake. Residents in Florida reported feeling the ground move after 3 powerful earthquakes struck the coast of Cuba. This prompted brief fears that a tsunami could impact areas closest to the epicenter in the Caribbean Sea. Now why? Why would we see tsunamis here? Usually we see a tsunami when we have an earthquake 6.5 and larger. This time we had 2 of them. The 6.3, as I pointed out earlier, was actually a 6.7. 6.5 to 6.7. Any earthquake stronger than a 6.5 can trigger a tsunami. Yet down here in Cuba, just south of Cuba today, we had a 6.0, which was an actual 6.3. The 6.3, which was actually a 6.5, 6.6 earthquake. And the 6.8, that was actually a 7.2, 7.3 earthquake. 3 major earthquakes. Basically 3 major earthquakes that could have triggered a tsunami. However, today was not the day for a tsunami here in Cuba. According to the U.S. Geological Survey and NOAA's Tsunami Warning Center, that was not to be the case today. The 3 earthquakes were reported within an hour of each other. 3 very strong major earthquakes were reported within an hour of each other. The first was a 6.0. USGS is now saying is a 5.9. It was reported just before 11 a.m., 10:50 a.m. Eastern Time, approximately 22 miles south of Bartolome, Cuba, at a depth of about 9 miles. 9 miles, guys. That is just less than 10 kilometers deep. Okay? It's a big deal. This is a very, very, very shallow earthquake. A very shallow earthquake in this area. I think we need to be concerned about what's going to happen. Because these shallow earthquakes could also trigger a large earthquake. Usually it's the other way around. Deep earthquakes usually trigger more shallow earthquakes. But this is an area where it can turn around here. This is very much an area where this could turn around. Okay? I'm just saying. It remains to be seen right now what happens. I want everybody to realize what is going on. Okay? Just a second. Something's happened to my information I have here. I'm trying to fix the boat here, if you know what I mean. I spent quite a bit of time this afternoon putting together all this information for you. And then right as I come on the air, things change here. Just a second, I'm starting to get control of this here. Well, this is ridiculous. Anyway, like I said, shaking from Cuba, from the south part of Cuba, was felt all the way up north into Florida. 3 very powerful earthquakes struck off the Cuban coast. Residents in Florida reported feeling ground move after 3 powerful earthquakes struck off the coast of Cuba this morning. Again, because these were such strong earthquakes, there were brief fears that a tsunami could happen. It did not. Again, the USGS and the National Tsunami Warning Center, run by NOAA, said it was not going to happen today. The picture I'm showing you shows a detail where the earthquake happened. All three major earthquakes. I shouldn't say major, I'm sorry. Two very strong sixes hit. Then the major 6.8, 7.3 earthquake. 7.8, I'm calling a 7.2, 7.3 earthquake. All the data shows it being a much larger earthquake. Okay? Now, the largest of the quakes was a 6.8 to 7.3 earthquake. That earthquake again was centered 25 miles south of Bartolomé Mazo, Cuba, at a depth of between 8 and 9 miles deep. Shortly after the earthquake was reported, the National Weather Service Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said, while there was no significant threat of a tsunami, there is a very small possibility of tsunami waves along the coast nearest the epicenter. Along the coast nearest the epicenter, Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, with even the possibility of probably 3 to 5 inch tsunami waves hitting over in Puerto Rico. The Pacific National Tsunami Warning Center said in Palmer, Alaska, that there was no tsunami danger. No tsunami danger at all. Either on the East Coast, the Gulf of Mexico, or along the eastern coast of Canada. According to reports from the USGS website, people in Florida, from Miami to Hollywood to Boca Raton, Florida, and even as far north as Orlando, Florida, reported feeling the ground shake. But there were no immediate effects when the earthquake fell in Miami. The city of Miami is aware that some residents in Brickell downtown area may be concerned about the recent earthquake off the coast of Cuba. But we want to assure everyone that no earthquake or aftershocks are being felt in Miami. The fire department has received calls from concerned residents, but we want to emphasize that there is no cause for alarm. So far, there have been no reports of damage or injuries in Florida either. Officials say efforts to assess damage are underway in Cuba. Officials are assessing damage in Cuba. But the biggest thing we have to worry about right now is damage caused by the recent Hurricane Rafael that came through here as a Category 3 hurricane. And prior to that, they had power outages. And they're still going through power outages as we speak. There have been landslides, damage to homes and power lines, according to Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel Castro, adding that areas of Santiago de Cuba and Granma were affected. We are beginning to assess damage in order to begin recovery. The first and most important thing is to save lives. Yolanda Tabio, 76 years of age, said people in the city flocked to the streets and were still nervously sitting in their doorways. This young woman, 76 years old, said she felt at least 2 aftershocks following the major quakes. But there were many friends and family she hasn't heard anything of since these earthquakes happened. She hasn't heard about any damage yet. The earthquake comes along another tough stretch for Cuba. Again, Wednesday this past week, Category 3 Hurricane Rafael ripped through western Cuba, with strong winds knocking out power island-wide, destroying hundreds of homes, forcing evacuations of hundreds of thousands of people in Cuba. Days after, much of the island was still struggling without power. Weeks before, in October, Cuban island was hit with a 1-2 punch. First, it was hit by an island-wide blackout, stretching on for days, a product of the island's energy crisis. Shortly after, it was slapped with a powerful hurricane. that struck the eastern part of the island and killed at least 6 people. The blackouts and wider discontent among the struggling people of Cuba, struggling to get by, has stoked small protests across the island. Now, that's not the only place that's had problems today. Unfortunately, I want to tell you this. Flooding in Spain has been going on for days now. Flooding in Spain has gone on for days. There's been strong rains over in Spain. Catastrophic floods caused by the rains. There's been at least 219 people killed, and 93 more are missing and billions of dollars in damage. The catastrophic torrential rains overflowed rivers and normally dry canals in eastern Spain last week, triggered flash floods that submerged entire communities and killed scores of people. The deluge left behind an island of devastation, a landscape, huge devastation, especially in Valencia, Spain, the hardest hit region. The search for dead and missing continues, more than a week since the October 29th floods, as well as gargantuan cleanup and recovery efforts. As you can see in this picture, the floodwaters came into this woman's home. It picked up everything and buried it in mud. Here's a look at Spain's deadliest natural disaster of the century by the numbers. The historic floods caused 219 deaths, 211 of them in the Valencia region alone. Another 7 people died in neighboring Castilla de la Mancha, and 1 more in southern Andalusia. 93 people have been officially declared missing, but authorities admit that the real number could be higher. Another 54 bodies remain unidentified. In total, 36,605 people have been rescued. That's according to authorities at this point. We will see what happens. The full extent of the damage is unknown, but Spain's Consortium for Insurance Compensation, a public-private entity that pays insurance claims for extreme risk like floods, estimates it will spend at least 3.5 billion euros, $3.8 billion in compensation. The consortium has received 116,000 insurance claims for flood damage, with 60% of the claims for cars, 31% for homes. Spain's Association of Insurance Companies anticipates that the flooding will break historic records for payouts. The Transport Ministry has so far repaired 232 kilometers, 144 miles of roadway and rail tracks, but the high-speed train line between Valencia and Madrid is still demolished. The high-speed train line between Valencia and Madrid, Spain is still demolished. The central government has approved 10.6 billion euros, $11.6 billion relief package for families, businesses, and town halls. The Valencia regional government is asking Madrid for 31 billion euros, approximately $33 billion in aid as well. Record rainfall set off these disasters. The drought that hit this country for the past 2 years and record hot temperatures helped magnify the floods. Spain's meteorological agency said that they received 30.4 inches of rain in 1 hour. 30.4 inches of rain in 1 hour's time. In the town of Valencia, of tourists, an all-time record for rainfall set on October 29th. The devastated village of Cuba also received more rain in 8 hours than the town had experienced in the preceding 20 months. The storms honed in on the Magro and Turia rivers and the Pollo Canal, turning them into swift currents that swept away everything in their path. Now, to the human eye, it looked as if a tsunami-like wave of water and mud cut through the southern outskirts of the city of Valencia. More than 17,000 troops and police and an army of volunteers have gone and mobilized themselves to help the people in these areas. The emergency operation mobilized by central authorities has grown to more than 17,000 troops and police officers. The operation includes 8,000 soldiers, 2,100 of them belonging to military emergency units that specialize in disaster response, along with 9,200 additional police officers from other parts of Spain. Thousands of extraordinary citizens volunteered, with no definite estimate as to exactly how many have helped from one day to another with cleanup effort. And it's going on. The government said that in the first week after the flood started, authorities restored electricity to 147,000 homes and distributed some 178,000 bottles of water to places that were still without drinking water. What we still don't know. Spanish authorities have yet to say how many calls about missing persons that they've received, to give an estimate of the property damage, or release a calculation of how much land was devastated. At this point, no one can guess when the recovery effort will be concluded. Even over in Madrid, Spain. Madrid, Spain has received devastating news that much of its town has also been dealt a huge blow to. They're going to recover most of Spain, but it's going to take time. Now, one of my dear friends, Rob, that we all know as Rob52 here in the chat, one of his friends has family members over here in Madrid, and they were hoping to visit them. But now, because of this storm, they may not be able to see them. I hope and pray that they can. I hope and pray, and I hope all of us will also be praying that those people may be found, and they may be found and nothing happened to them. And that most of the other areas of Spain will also recover. This is devastating news for a very large country, so to speak, that has very much been a huge tourist venue and very much been a center of much happiness and uprightness in Europe. Spain has always been there for everyone. And now everyone needs help Spain. We need to help and pray for them as well. We've been praying for the United States of America. We've been praying for Canada. And now we're going to pray for Spain as well. Let us hopefully keep these people in prayer. They need it. Does anybody have any questions for me? I know I've gone fairly fast through all this information, but I felt everybody needed to hear this. Does anybody have any questions about anything for me? I will be very happy to take any questions that I can and give you some answers. I know this is hard. I know this is very hard. Yes, even the Cubans need our help tonight as well. They need prayers. It's hard for anything like this to happen, yet it has. We've also seen some large earthquakes over in Tonga and Fiji region. We've seen some moderate earthquakes and small earthquakes over in New Zealand. But these major earthquakes are what we're concerned about. Now, why have they happened? Number one, during this past week, we've seen another X-class flare. We've seen more plasma radiation coming from the sun. That's why we saw these earthquakes today. And we're going to continue to see that happen. I believe this is only the beginning this week. We may see more large earthquakes and very strong earthquakes as well, and possibly even another major 7.0 or large earthquake. Okay? It's likely to happen. These very strong solar storms coming from the sun, packed with a lot of plasma radiation, are likely to cause more and more earthquakes. And I believe we're going to also be hit with some planetary alignments, which cause geomagnetic storms, and they cause electromagnetic radiation hit the Earth, which also is the cause of earthquakes. Any other questions? Laura Marie, thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you, brothers and sisters. You guys are the best. Guys, if we don't have anything else, I'm going to get off the air here and go back and spend some time with my dear wife. It's her birthday on Wednesday, and it's mine on Monday. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening tonight, and may you be blessed this week. Tomorrow we'll talk more about earthquakes. We're going to talk more about a lot of things this coming week, including President Trump going after people to staff his cabinet and staff his re-election. I shouldn't even say re-election. Staff his transition team. He's in the midst of staffing his transition team. And I need to say this. His chief of staff, for the first time, his chief of staff is going to be someone who is on his butt continually. He's now made her the chief of staff. We'll talk more about her tomorrow, as well as the other people that they're going to represent his cabinet and important posts within his government. I need to also say, watch out for the Democrat Party. They're still coming after Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump has also faced another possible death threat from Iran. 3 Iranians have been arrested in the United States, and more people probably will be under arrest from Iran. A huge conspiracy to commit murder of the United States president. And it started a week ago, a little over a week ago, in fact. They hoped to kill President Trump before the election. And now it's been 4 days past that, or 5 days past that now. They've arrested 3 people, one other person is on the run. We're hoping the FBI catches that person as well. But it was a multi-million-dollar heist to kill President Trump. The 3rd assassination attempt since July 13th. God bless all of you guys. We love and appreciate you. Let's pray for President Trump, the people in Spain, and the people in Cuba. God be with you. God be with you and protect you. We love you all. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate you ever so much. Take care, everybody. God bless. We'll see you very shortly. See you very shortly.